Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murder. Right now, we're going to go ahead and jump into this part 88 of Life Beyond the Grave, which is attached to the Lori Vallow case. In order to catch up, we're going to do an audio only every once in a while. Where we left off on the last series is Lori Vallow has flown to Hawaii. She has her daughter Tylee with her, and even Melanie Gibb comes to visit at some point. Lori Vallow books a hotel room, calls her friend April, stays with April for approximately a week before she goes and books a room at a Hawaii resort. April finds out some very shocking information that Lori and Charles, well, they're having serious problems and they may be getting a divorce. But she discovers something even more odd. The fact that Charles might be a zombie. Lori is spending a lot of time setting up Charles, misleading him, leaving him false breadcrumbs in order to get him off her tail. She doesn't want to be with Charles any longer, but she also doesn't want a divorce. A lot of people don't understand that, but the reason for that is if she gets a divorce, there's a nice life insurance policy Charles has that she won't get if she gets a divorce. There are material things that they own together. Lori claims that Charles has a private investigator following her. And while she's emptying his bank account and leaving JJ with nothing, she's having a good time at the Kauai Beach Resort for about 30 days. Now we are about to learn, perhaps, why Joe Ryan went broke when she left him. She even used his own sister. My timeline is a bit hazy here. At some point, April is able to learn some of Lori Vallow's teachings. So I'm guessing Lori's there to try to teach April. Because you got to remember, Lori believes that she's a goddess and a leader of the 144,000. While April insisted that she just listened to what Lori had to say, and that she didn't necessarily believe anything she had to say. She's there for quite a long while, and we know how Lori is. If you give her the side eye, she's going to be out of there. Ask Adam Cox. Ask Charles Vallow, or anyone else that disagrees with her for that matter. Now, in April Raymond's testimony, in her answer to Lori's defense team, here, just let me play it. He's going to ask her if she ever addressed Lori as to where she's learning this stuff.
And did you ask her where she was starting, or why she was starting to change her beliefs?
Yes, and it was that she had had some experiences in the LDS temple that had changed her view of herself and her life, and then she had found these a group of like-minded individuals who had also had those same experiences.
And did you, when she was telling you that, did you believe it?
No.
And did you tell her that?
Yes.
And what was her response to you?
I don't think she was upset. I think my impression was she just thought I wasn't ready to hear it, maybe.
Okay. Did she talk to you about setting up a new church called the Church of the Firstborn?
No.
So Lori hadn't talked to April about the Church of the Firstborn. However, she was introducing her, filling her out, to see how she felt about what they were teaching. Interestingly, Lori was more comfortable with sharing Charles was a zombie versus telling her about being a leader of the 144. This is odd to me because sometimes we hear April knows about it, sometimes she does not. So why does Lori think that Charles is cheating? Well, according to Lori, when he's out of town, he's spending too much money at the grocery store or on groceries. April asks Lori, what does this woman look like? Who is she? Lori doesn't know, and she doesn't even know if the girl has a name or what she looks like. But she certainly knows that Charles has a demon living inside of him. This is the first time April says that she's ever heard these beliefs. The beliefs about light and dark spirits, and the fact that spirits could be measured in such ways. While Lori is visiting with April, she pulls out a paper with a list of names, mostly people, Lori knows, marked light or dark. There were just pages and pages of names, according to April. But for April, she says it's alarming, especially after seeing her own name listed on the system. Something that's kind of funny is April says at the time she noticed her name, it was listed as light after Lori crossed out another name and replaced that name with April's name. She doesn't notice Tylee's name, though she recognizes many other names. Lori tells April that Tylee is dark, just like her father, Joe Ryan. And during this time, April doesn't see any results for JJ. As April's looking over these names in this paper, she's really not understanding what's going on, so she's trying to make sense of it all. April said during this time she thought it was harmless or some type of escape for Lori or maybe a fantasy world. At some point, Lori will send Tylee back to Arizona, according to April, and Tylee is working with her aunt at the chiropractor center. But we've heard that Tylee did live with Lori's brother Alex off and on. During Lori's stay in Hawaii, about February through March, April doesn't see JJ. Lori never checked on him or had any concern that we're aware of. Lori just dropped him like he meant nothing and will manipulate her family later, saying, "You know me," as if she's this great mom that wouldn't do anything to hurt her children. On a podcast with Nancy Grace, April said she thought Lori was having a nervous breakdown. Because remember, Lori, her oldest child, Colby Ryan, he was married and he just had his first baby. Lori had just become a grandmother. A lot of us were thinking maybe she was going through a midlife crisis. It seems her good friend April thought that same thing. But could you imagine your friend that you knew for a while sit down with you and say, "Look, there's a demon inside of my husband"? I don't know about you guys, but I would immediately think that this person needs help right now. Not tomorrow, not a week from now, right now. Now, April describes what Charles is like. She described Charles as being very patient, overly patient, and especially with Lori. So she's insinuating that Lori might be a handful. And she notices that Charles is madly in love with Lori and will do anything for Lori. Interestingly, we know that Melanie Gibb flies into Hawaii. How does she get there? Where's she getting this money? She's not working, right? She's hanging out with Lori every single day. The girls go to Calypso for lunch. They actually have a few afternoon dinners together. I guess this didn't bother April too much because she does continue to hang out with Lori. At some of these little hangouts, Lori tells April how Charles has been sending emails to her families pleading for help. And I'll say this, we already heard this. She said, "Please do not respond to Charles if he reaches out to you." Lori is so excited about all this information and knowledge that she's sharing with April, and especially about the multiple lives here on Earth, also throughout the universe. Now, something April notices, just like the rest of us, is Lori's just not a nobody in these past lives. She's somebody very significant, sometimes even huge turning points in religion. So in other interviews, like I mentioned, April seems to be aware that this is the gathering of the 144. In these other interviews, she said, "I just didn't want to be any part of that." According to the contradictory of April, Lori explained her purpose of their role, and their role was to support the second coming of Jesus Christ. She tells April that they have a job, and that job is to travel and recruit people for this 144,000, which makes more sense that Lori would stick around longer with April now. There's one problem is April isn't going to put up with the fact that she's going to have to leave her family behind. Interesting fact here. So you would think that a woman that's capable or being accused of murdering people would have some type of temper. But according to April, she says she's never seen Lori raise her voice and thought she was always a good mother. For me, during my investigation here, I noticed that Lori was good at putting on a ruse, that anything she done for herself. You know, she was there for her entertainment, her likes, her everything. She was trying to do it under the ruse as a mother, you know, trying to do things for her family and her children, trying to do the right thing. Lori's very good at painting a false story. Attorneys will later speak that Charles hired and say that he tells the attorney that he feels like he's going to be murdered, or and even who's going to do it. So he's very shocked by this. He even told his attorney if something happened to him to make sure, you know, you get this information out to everyone, that Lori is responsible. While Charles Vallow is taking Lori Vallow's threats quite seriously, he's still afraid to live without the woman of his life. She has threatened Charles and says she doesn't even want anything to do with JJ, but he's really struggling going back and forth. Now, there is talk about people living on other planets. And where would this come from? Well, a lot of it, since we know she listens to Julie Rowe, it comes from a lot of people. You would be surprised by how many people believe in pre-mortal lives. But Julie Rowe does podcasts, and I was going to share that with you, but we're not going to have time, of how these multiple lives work, and, you know, throughout the universe, multi-dimensions. And again, you know, you can live on multiple planets. And in fact, you can be gods of your own planet. Let's not forget that Lori allegedly believed that she was a natural grandmother to the Mormon founder, Joseph Smith Jr. So she's not a complete translated being at this point. She's translating as we speak. And Charles is trying to warn a lot of people within the church, including ward leaders and bishops of the LDS. And Lori is well aware what Charles is doing, and she's telling people that Charles is trying to get her excommunicated from the church. But in fact, Charles is trying to get her temple recommend taken away. Several of Lori's friends, including Christina and many others, they're aware of what's going on right now, but they're not able to get in contact with Lori per se. But guess what? The woman that Chad quit talking to, Julie Rowe, it's around this time she's still having to deal with these scheduling meetings with stake leaders discussing whether or not, you know, she's going to be excommunicated. They're, you know, telling her that she's teaching false doctrines. And just in case I don't want to forget, this will go all the way up until I think March 10th, but I'll go through my timeline here and we'll figure it out. While Lori Vallow is missing, well, she's doing more podcasts. One of those podcasts will be published February 10th of 2019, and it's coming from an event that was held February 15th and 16th. Guess who's going to be there? Chad Dabo and Nancy James and Michael James, where they're going to discuss a brand new show, Preparing a People Global. You can do a monthly subscription of around $7. and you'll get monthly episodes of about 45 minutes in length. This show will actually cover spiritual visions and understanding current world events. Meanwhile, Tylee, when she was in, I think I forgot to mention this, when they were in Hawaii, she kind of makes a joke that her mom has what they call burner phones. So keep that in mind. It's around this point that we're being told allegedly that Adam Cox and Charles are texting more often when Lori takes off. And Charles will actually continue to reach out to several family members. Whoever will listen to him, he will contact. And Lori, while she's getting quite good with her burner phone that she's using to keep in contact with certain people, especially Chad Daybell. It's around this time that Lori starts to think about doing castings and using weapons through the power of prayer. Now, I did find, I'm not going to have time to do that either, but Julie Rowe has done a podcast about casting out back in December of 2018. Let's talk about some of the weapons that they use. So you have, for the zombies and stuff that we're going to deal with shortly, we're going to be dealing with swords of light, fiery darts, and then we're going to also have those women who are going to gain these special abilities using water and fire and wind and earthquakes. And Lori is building up this belief that she has a power to cast out zombies, not only for her loved ones, but around the world. Now, we're not certain, at least I'm not at this time because I've researched so much. There's a lot that I'm not even sharing with you guys when the term zombie comes into play, but it's pretty soon. A zombie, a slug, or a worm, or a demon that's inside a body. She's starting to make arrangements to have these little casting meetings where she's going to call a few of her friends in to help her do these castings. Around February 11th of 2019, Charles visits Life Academy for JJ to inform them about this order of protection. Now, his concerns is his life and his life of his son, JJ. He allegedly told school officials that he was taking JJ out of school and going out of state to keep him safe. Where was he going to go? Well, we believe he was heading to Texas. Now, as I said, guys, I have a lot of old information mixed in with my new information, so it's going to be hard to tell some of this in exact order. But remember that life insurance policy Charles has that equals up to about $1 million? Somewhere around this point in the timeline, he contacts his sister, Kay. Kay said, quote, Charles and I had a conversation. He had a $1 million policy with Lori as the beneficiary. He told me he wanted me to be the sole recipient. I told him to leave it to his boys, but he was worried about what Lori was going to do, end quote. So Kay is starting to learn Charles' concerns. He's asking his sister to be the authority over JJ. After all, he got JJ from the Kay and Larry Woodcock. The fact that he went through extreme measures to make sure that his life insurance policy didn't go to Lori Vallow was enough said against her. And Charles eventually ends up having to tell the school about how his wife has kind of gone crazy and that she's speaking to spirits and so on. He'll actually share some of the emails that he's gotten and some of the stuff that he discovers with a lot of these people he's talking to. So it's around February 5th and 11th, somewhere in there, that JJ's absent from school. Charles has to go into the school, explain, his wife's kind of gone crazy. And I'll place some of the documents here for you to read. I hope you can read them. JJ won't return to school until around February 21st of 2019. Now, a woman that is related to Chad Daybell's side of the family, Heather Daybell, she will actually give us an idea of what she thought of Chad Daybell. Let's go ahead and share that. Now, this is on True Hidden Crime, so you can catch the entire video there.
How family would get together for various reunions or hunting trips or whatever, and Chad frequently would never ask questions about how other people were doing.
Oh, never.
He never had no empathy, right? And then there was specifically a story that Matt told. I don't know if we can use this, but we haven't used it. But
we haven't used it. We'll ask it.
But they were in the hot tub and they hadn't seen each other for a few years, and all the brothers were in the hot tub, and this was getting close to when all this was starting to happen. And the brothers are all catching up and talking about how they're doing, and Chad had no interest whatsoever in how they were doing or what they were doing, and he was just in his own world. And I think that I love that story because, to me, that describes Chad Daybell. He's in his own. He lives in a fantasy world he's created, and he doesn't care about even his own brothers.
That's absolutely true. I think Matt would be totally fine with you sharing that, because that is something he and I have commented on many times, is that when we would see him, it was all about his books. That's all he talked about. Here, Matt's got a business. Matt, never. Hey, how are things going for you? How's your business? Never. It's like he didn't even know that should be a thing.
So while Chad is kind of finding excuses to head off to Arizona or wherever these Preparing the People events are, it turns out it's his excuse to go hang out with his goddess, Lori Vallow. People like Melanie Gibb, they're starting to see these two just blatantly open about this relationship, at least for some people in some places. And they are asking questions like, why don't you guys just go get a divorce? In an interview with Nate Eaton, that's exactly what Nate asked Melanie. What the heck's going on with that? Why didn't they get a divorce? Did you ever ask them that?
Yeah.
Did you ever think, she might be falling in love with him?
Yeah, I knew. They pretty much hit it off.
Did you wonder, hold on, she's married and he's married too, and they both have kids? Was that a thought you ever expressed to Lori?
Well, I did actually offer the idea. I'm like, why don't you just go ahead and get a divorce? And they were told that they weren't allowed to.
They weren't allowed to?
Yeah.
Because of church teachings, or?
No, something that they received through the other side of the veil, how they would speak about it, and said, no, we're not allowed to do that.
So they received like a spiritual prompting or a revelation, or
however he got his revelation.
However he got it. He
Yeah.
said, don't get a divorce.
Right, he wasn't allowed to, actually.
Was not allowed to get a divorce.
That's correct.
So, as you can see, Melanie Gibb isn't coming forth with this information very well. Maybe because she was told not to share too much information, but a lot of people believe that's not the case because she's sharing an awful lot of information here. So, they're getting revelation. They're talking to God, it seems, or a spirit. We know somebody behind the veil, at least, telling them they cannot get a divorce. This is not allowed. And a lot of us know why they're not allowed. The truth of the matter is there's life insurance policies involved. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and close out for now. I'm really working so incredibly hard to get this stuff out there for you guys. I mean, it was so much work, and at the time that I did this, I was just trying to discover something they wouldn't share. Now it's all out there, and I'm just like, all that work. So now it's adding to it and putting it together again. It's like doing it all over. Anyways, don't forget about these girls that are missing. They are really important to us, and we want to make sure that their cases get solved. We want to see these kids come back home to their families. I love you all so much. I know I'm not commenting too much right now because I'm busy trying to get this stuff together, but I read them. I love you guys. Don't forget, watch these videos all the way through because YouTube has changed the way that they, kind of get things out there now. Love you. See you soon.